Coby's thing is that he would write on his music while we were on stage. And one time he drew this horse and he did the X's for the eyes, so the horse was dead. And there was a guy next to it with a stick, like he was beating a dead horse. So I've been trying to decide all day how I was going to start this very special episode with two family members of mine. They're my friends, but they're like family members. And I think the best way I can do it is to tell my side of the story of how I met them. And then we can go back and fill in all the blanks of how that all happened. So I was playing in a band called Timeless Highway, and we were playing at the Mall of Georgia Outdoor Amphitheater. And at the end of our show, this guy and his kids came up and introduced themselves and threw out the idea of me coming over and playing some music with them at some point. And typically, that kind of idea would be like, okay, that's interesting. But something just told me, you should go and do it. So we traded phone numbers and got something on the calendar, and I went over to their house. Turns out that they lived not too far from where I lived. And so I set up my amp, got my guitar out, and was ready to jump in and start playing. And they all started playing and singing together, and I literally stopped in my tracks. And it was like the first day of the rest of my life. And it just started this musical relationship, friendship, family thing that we've had ever since. And it's been like almost 20 years now. It's hard to believe. So all of that to say, I'm really, really happy to have Courtnie Downs and Coby Rosson joining today. Hey, guys, how are you?
Hey, buddy. You stuck with us ever since.
That's right. That's exactly right. Let's get all of that out of the way. Y'all tell your version of it. I think I told most of it. I'm sure there's a little bit more.
I should probably let Courtnie start since I'm prone to crying most of the time when we're together. So I'm sure we'll get to that point at some time or the other.
Well, I wasn't at the Mall of Georgia. I just remember Dad coming home and raving about this band. Of course, we had moved from Myrtle Beach and trying to find the musician friends around, and you could tell he was glowing. He stumbled upon some true talent. And he goes, well, I invited this guy over. And in my mind, I'm like, this stranger is not going to just come in our house, in our living room. He don't know us. He's crazy. Well, he showed up. And you've been Big Brother Brad ever since.
I think, I could be wrong, but I think all that started, Dad found a business card pinned up at a music store for Bill Cunningham. And he called Bill and was just having, hey, we don't know a lot of musicians. We haven't lived here long. And he said, man, there's a great country band with a great singer and a bass player. You should go check out. So that's when Dad started, stalking the band a little bit. And, we didn't live anywhere close to the Mall of Georgia. So he just told me and Dylan, hey, I want to go show you something. Let's get in the car. So it all stemmed from steel player Bill putting his little card at the local music store and Dad just making a few phone calls. But yeah, that was, golly, I think I may have been in high school, Brad. It's definitely been 20 years plus. So
it's amazing to think about how much life has happened between then and now. We're all married and have kids and we're living in different places, but the relationship and all of that has remained through all of it. And it's just, I don't want to get too sappy right out of the gate, but you guys, I love you guys as much as I love anybody on the planet. So it's just, it's good to see your faces and talk a little bit today.
I agree.
So tell everyone about David and Brenda. Tell them about Mom and Dad and some of the musical stuff they did, where all this crazy talent y'all have, where it came from.
So Mom and Dad have been doing this since, they was little. both of our grandparents on both sides had musical backgrounds. My mom's family had a big bluegrass start. Her brother was a very renowned guitar player, had a lot of success. My dad's side, his grandfather was a musician, played around. And so they kind of had it at a young age too. But
Mom was in a band called the Pee Wees. And she was like less than 10. I don't know exactly how old she was, but elementary age. They would go to, my grandfather would take them to local theaters and they would perform, and they were in the, local newspapers and the local TV shows and all that.
They got a pretty early start. And then as far as my dad goes, he graduated high school and had signed up to go to the local community college. And before day one started, he had an opportunity and he left and started traveling, playing music. I think one of his first big jobs he was with was an artist named Joe Stampley. Did a lot of work with Joe Stampley, and that's kind of, he cut his teeth a lot before then, but that's, where he started seeing a lot more success with the songwriting and things like that. They had several cuts. And at that point, he was had some opportunities to start writing for Tree Publishing. And he also wrote for Bore Music Publishing, which was Ray Baker and Mo Bandy. So he had a bunch of cuts with those guys. But, Joe and Mo, I think Con Hunley cut some, Steve Warner cut some. There's a guy in Texas, Kenny Dave, I don't know if you're familiar with. Gus Harden cut some. So, he's had a lot of success as a songwriter. And, Mom was there with him for the majority of it. She's a great singer.
Mom and Dad met. There was a show in Knoxville. I don't know if it was weekly, but it was one of those music shows. And it was the Clayton show, Jim Clayton Mobile Homes. So he had a country music show, and that's where they met. I think 16, 17, they sang country music in front of the camera and then went to, their high school the next day. Mom said all the football players used to make fun of her, but it's what you imagine back in the day where they had the crazy hair and the costumes and they looked right into the camera and sang their country songs. But that's where they met, and we're pretty grateful for the Jim Clayton music show.
Seriously.
Together.
So did they grow up in Knoxville or around Knoxville?
Yeah. So some towns around Knoxville, but Knoxville was like the hub. Yeah.
My one time, I think, ever singing in Knoxville, I think I was 6 or 7. I sang on WNOX in Knoxville. Actually, I may have done it a couple times, but I sang on the last day of the 1982 World's Fair in Knoxville. That's that's the one thing I remember doing was singing on the radio and then getting invited to, and I went the next day and sang at the World's Fair.
Wow. I have a souvenir from the World's Fair. I was born in 82, so I don't really remember the World's Fair.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Got me a souvenir that said World's Fair 1982 on it.
Another Bill Cunningham story. At some point, you guys went to a steel guitar show. I think you went to a few of them, and you guys were hanging out. And Jim Hartley, who is a great drummer who's played with a bunch of people, he came up to Bill and pointed at your dad and said, "Do you have any idea who that guy is right there? Do you know what all he's done?" And he's like, "He'll never tell you. He's so modest about it, but that guy has done a lot of stuff." And that is the truth.
Yeah, my dad's the humblest people you'll ever meet. He will never tell a story about himself or how talented he is.
Yeah, he's won BMI awards. He's got Grand Ole Opry awards. He's had, top 10 songs on the radio. He's earned tons of respects, but like Courtney said, until you really start to pry and ask for stories, he's got a lot of stories about other people, but he's too humble. Too humble. It was never about fame or success. He just loved the music. He's a great storyteller, tells great stories. And I think a lot of Courtney makes fun of me all the time because, I kind of got locked in this 90s country bubble. That's my happy place. And I think when he was in his prime, maybe he was a little bit ahead of his time. But yeah, I mean, so much success, and that's kind of where our roots started. You know, in high school, I was liking all the old country stuff because that's what we grew up on. You know, our dad once he got off the road, and you know, the kids were here, he was working a lot of theater shows, and it was not uncommon Saturday after the shows when he'd finally make it back home. It was Opry Saturday night. So we watched the Grand Ole Opry growing up. So may not have been too popular in high school, but man, I like the rhinestones and the steel guitars, and that kind of, I got in all of our blood.
Well, I feel like it came to like a pathway. I think about this sometimes where we could have been, you know, big famous family going one direction, but I'm grateful to both of my parents for choosing family, you know, and giving us a life. Dad, he could have chosen to stay on the road or do other things, but as soon as he had kids, and mom, this goes mom too, they sacrificed for us, most definitely.
Yeah, I absolutely. So I think at some point, did you guys move to Myrtle Beach, or did you grow? Were they already there when you guys were born?
The timeline in my mind, and Courtney, you're a little older than I am, so you can let me know. But once Dad had gotten off the road with his artist, he started working at a theater show in Pigeon Forge. From there, moved to South Carolina, and he began working at a theater show called the Carolina Opry. A lot of
We'll talk about the theater show in Pigeon Forge. Was called the Smoky Mountain Jubilee. And to kind of, not to interrupt you, but to kind of tie it all in, I think is interesting is, you know, that musician circle, how small it is. There were people that I grew up with that I knew from Dollywood, that I knew from all the theaters in Pigeon Forge, including, you know, Dad's show that he worked at, where, you know, they become family members. We moved to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where he worked at the Carolina Opry. And some of those people were there too. Some people that I grew up with ended up being in Myrtle Beach with us. And then, you know, circle back, mom and dad are back in Tennessee, and some from Myrtle Beach have made their way back. It's just kind of an interesting coincidence how we all kind of meet up around the world and find each other, you know?
You know, in those shows east of the Mississippi, those are probably the two biggest shows.
Well, our typical, and this, I just think this is a fun story, and this might be young for Coby to remember, or maybe not. Our typical weekend, once mom's, you know, sacrificed her singing career to raise us kids, Dad worked at the theater every night except Sunday. So a typical Friday, Saturday night for us was to go to Pigeon Forge, and my grandfather played in a bluegrass band in like some gazebo in Pigeon Forge, and they had a concrete slab next to it where you would dance or clog. My grandmother got me clogging shoes, and Coby had a little guitar, so my grandfather would invite him up in the gazebo to play guitar with him, and then we'd be dancing on the concrete slab, and the people in the audience, which were typically, I remember from that crowd, for me, were older, they would throw coins, like quarters and dimes and nickels. So you dance a little, then you pick them up, and then you take those coins and you go play at the arcade. And when you ran out of money, you went and danced some more. So we stayed with our grandparents there. And then sometimes we would get in the car, sometimes we'd jump on the trolley and then go back to the Smoky Mountain Jubilee where Dad was and finish watching him and his show and kind of finish out the evening and then ride home together. But mine and Coby's life, and Dylan too, we grew up in those theaters. I mean, we still can, you know, name you the set list and recite the jokes. And those people in the theater, you know, they helped raise us. They're very influential in our lives. We were surrounded by that all the time. And the same thing when we went to Myrtle Beach. We would go to that show all the time. They had 3 shows there at that time that we'd kind of rotate. But yeah, that's one thing that a lot of people just can't relate to our childhood and the stories that we talk about and our childhood experiences, you know. They're unique.
Oh, it's great. And yeah, I feel like I say this on every conversation I have on here. I think I say this, but for me growing up, I just thought that that's what every family did.
Yeah, that's your norm.
I didn't know that, you know, other families sat around and played board games or sat around and watched football or something, watch the sports ball or something. Whenever our family got together, there was going to be music. That was it. That was the end result of the event, and I'm sure it was the same for y'all.
Still is. I mean, mom and dad are back in Nashville, and Courtney and I are here in Georgia. But anytime I go up there, if we're all there, the weekend doesn't end without somebody pulling out a guitar, and everybody grabs a part and sings. And
so I'm going to ask the same question of both of you. I'm going to start with you, Courtney. When did you realize that you could sing?
Gosh, well, I've always been. This is going to shock you, but there was a time when I was really backwards shy. I'm talking bashful, wasn't saying anything. Yeah, I don't really think that there was a time where I knew I could sing or felt talented. It was just kind of normal. I grew up spending most of my time singing in my bedroom with my CDs in the background, but it actually wasn't until I was in high school and we had kind of our first family gig, and I remember it was like the first time I was going to do a solo on stage with my family. And it was Fleetwood Mac, Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow. That was my first solo song. And I remember being an absolute nervous wreck. I remember they videoed it and I wouldn't watch it because I was so shy about it. But I mean, it took me a while to get the courage to get up on stage, but as just for singing around the house and singing with the family, that was normal. But I was a late bloomer as far as that goes. But I always had music in my room. I always had my idols playing. Alison Krauss and Trisha Yearwood, and I love Shania Twain and all the 90s stuff too. Carole King and all the the 70s stuff too. I had like a kind of a variety, not just solely country, but yeah, it took me a while before I was confident enough to be on stage in front of a microphone.
Well, I'm glad you decided to do that because you're pretty good. So yeah, you're pretty good. How about you, Coby?
I don't know, man. Like when you grow up with, mom and dad, I know we talked a lot about dad, but my mom, man, she sings like a bird. She is so good and just as quiet and humble as dad. So again, you kind of have to pry to get her to share. But, when you grow up with that, you just feel like that's what singers sound like and what musicians sound like. When you have a career musician family, everyone, is pretty good, but then when we started to get into it, like Courtney said, I think it all kind of started as doing the family band, but growing up in those theater shows, I soaked it in. It was a sponge for me. And unlike my sister, I never had a problem being in front of a camera or a microphone. Talent or not, I was going to be the star. You better watch your back.
So. I'm going to interrupt you and tell this story because you may not tell it. He was so cute. And he was like, 5 or 6? And they got him a little matching suit that matched the band at the Smoky Mountain Jubilee. And he had his little guitar. And there was a night, it might have been more than one night, but I remember his first night on stage, the owner there, he was a wonderful man, Elmer Dreyer. He let Coby on stage that night. And Coby, he played guitar next to Dad the whole night. Dad went up and did a solo. Coby, it was Love Me. Remember Colin Ray's song, Love Me? And Dad backed off the mic and Coby had the mic for all to himself for a moment. And he was so little and so cute and not shy at all and stole the show, So we were very lucky to have people allow us to do that, So, sorry, Coby. I knew that you may not tell that story, but I had to tell it for you because you were so cute.
Is there any video evidence of that anywhere?
Probably, and I will look for it.
I don't know what you were saying. All this was cute stuff, but whatever. Yeah, never shy. But the thing about watching all those theater shows growing up and taking it all in like a sponge, it wasn't just the talent, but you learn about production and timing and dynamics and showmanship. And I just loved every minute of it. And I think at that point, that's whether it was going to be a career or whatever, I just knew I wanted to do it because my family had done it. I loved it. Then you get to high school and, your friends are all athletes and you realize that God did not give me the shape of an athlete. I'm small, slow, and, So picking up a guitar, and I found out that you get just as much attention holding a guitar case as you do as dribbling a basketball, right? So I mean, always wanted to play. I think, we have a younger brother, Dylan, who he kind of carried the torch and was a professional musician. He's got a lot of great success too. But even with him growing up, I think there may have been a little bit of competition in my mind because he's got those prodigy genes where he was picking up stuff at such a young age. And I had to work to try to get some knowledge and practice in. And so, high school really tried to learn guitar, not just chords, but, the art of it and how did this guy make this chord sound and that. But I think the one time that stands out that I feel like maybe I have some favor with the musician community was probably when you had asked me, Brad, you asked me to play in a church house band with these guys that all play professionally. Like this is their normal gig. And they said, you said you needed a guitar player. And man, you talk about the underdog, and I was way out of my element and made myself so nervous. But that was just a real compliment to me to even be invited. That was probably when I would say, maybe these 4 chords, they might get me somewhere after all. But the whole journey, man, it's been fun. We've played as a family. We've had friends. I've done stuff solo. Courtney's had her own projects. Loved every minute of it.
First of all, going back to you playing at the church, that was you both, when y'all would come and play and sing, it was just unbelievable. Some of the greatest musical memories of my life were us doing that together there. We have pictures that scroll on our TV, and I have the picture of the night that all of us played for the senior prom event for the church. And it's all of us standing there together. Do you remember that
yes.
night?
At our prom picture.
Yes, our prom picture. That was so much fun.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone that was there they were just so kind and receptive to it. And of all of the times that we've gotten to play in front of people and all of that, that's amazing. Okay. But sitting in the living room or playing in y'all's garage,
like the classy people do.
that I wish that everyone that has heard y'all could hear in that setting because it was just magical. It really was. There's no other way I can describe it. Was that it was just, you guys had this complete musical maturity way beyond your years at a very young age. And man, I just can't. I wish I could go back and experience those times again.
Well, even at that point, and think about it now, we were literally in a garage. We put a blanket over the door just to keep the heat in. But, growing up doing the living room stuff, we didn't have a PA system. So you really learn to listen. Like you have to be able to hear. So you're tuning in, listening to the other people singing in their parts. But even playing guitar stuff, like, not having a drummer. One thing my dad was always real big on is, keeping a steady beat, up, down, ching, 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 that kind of consistent rhythm and dynamics, keeping, volume down at a certain point. So all that education that we were getting, we had no idea. I mean, I think if we had just come out of the gate playing on a PA system with mics and monitors, I would say one thing that my parents do really, really well. And, to pass it on down, my sister, my brother, we've all really got this. It's just like a finesse or a dynamic. We don't typically like playing loud. Loud is not always better for us.
Yeah, I think I would always think when we would play, the unfortunate part about it is that we had to play on a PA system because I liked it best when it was just the natural sound
Right.
of everything. I think before I had met y'all, I had never heard like 3 people sit in a room and play acoustic guitar together and everyone play different positions. Normally, everybody plays G position or E position, and it just kind of everyone fighting with each other over those same few notes. And you guys would all play different capo positions, and it was just like this massive, beautiful sound of these guitars. And I'm like, it's just incredible.
I think one thing too that I think our parents were big on, I know especially Dad, is there are no egos, and they're check yourself. There's no egos. He'd always say, anyone's replaceable. But what I always paid attention to him saying too was, nobody outplayed each other. There was never a competition of, somebody trying to outdo someone else. So I think like not having that ego and just letting everybody be a part, like in unity, I think that brings it together.
That's exactly right. And it felt like a group effort every time I was fortunate enough to get to hang out with you guys. I mean, man, it was always great. Well, Houston means that I'm one day closer to you. Houston means the last day of the tour we're through. Well, honey, you and God in heaven above know I love what I do. For a living I do. Well, Houston means that I'm one day closer to you. Ah, boys, come on. So tell everyone about that little brother of yours, that little untalented brother that you have.
All right. Well, little Dylan, me and Dylan are like 11 years apart. He was born with it. I mean, I remember him being in diapers, wanting to set him on the drum stool, play a guitar. I mean, this kid used to take a toilet plunger and make it his mic stand and get a pot from the cabinet, and that was his guitar. He didn't care. Like anything you could play. I mean, and Coby was a lot like that too. I mean, they both just came out with that passion. And so I think he knew all along that that's the road he was going to take. And when he was graduating high school, there was the talk of college came up. And of course, he's like, I don't think that's the road I'm going to take. And, my mom was like, well, the heck you say, I think you're going to college. And she made a comment and she said, the day that you play for Taylor Swift or with Taylor Swift, that's the day we'll talk about you not going to college. Well, he got hired with a band called, it was the James Wesley Band. And correct me if I'm wrong, Coby, like his first gigs, they were opening up for Taylor Swift for the Speak Now tour. So Mom ate her words. He did not have to go to college. He was on the road with James Wesley, I don't know for how long, but at World Outreach Church, that's the church they go to in Murfreesboro, they had a men's conference with Charlie Daniels was there, and Coby told me if whoever, Scotty McCreery was there. And anyway, he got to play with Charlie Daniels. He got to do the guitar riff for Devil Went Down to Georgia. I don't know if this was the same time. I'm about to be mixing my stories up. Long story short, Scotty McCreery's guitar player was leaving. They heard Dylan play. He went on the tour with Scotty McCreery, and he played on the road with him. Gosh, Coby, 8?
Probably
I don't know. How long did he play? Okay. But his love is studio work and, doing session work in the studio. That's his passion. And so he's recently got married to a precious girl that we love. And he's doing studio work and demo work at home. So he finally is off of the road, which, that was a big adjustment for him, being on the road since you were 18 years old to, being home every night. So he had quite an adjustment, but he's crazy talented. I mean, Coby, you take over. He's crazy talented.
He's all right.
He is. And I had a dream. I wanted to make an EP CD and just kind of like a bucket list. Like, I'm going to record something before I die. Hey, Dylan. And him and my family came together and made the most beautiful, EP album for me, where anything he does it all. He does drums, he does vocals, he does all guitar, bass, everything that you hear he does. And he's dabbled in so many projects, but he's very talented. Very talented guy. We're proud of him.
For me, he's always going to be the kid that fell on the keyboard during the prayer. Isn't that what happened? What?
So we had kind of a stand-in job for the Relay for Life Cancer Survivor Dinner. And this lady came up. We had played, half of our set. And she came up and shared her cancer survivor story and wanted to close with prayer. And him being as small as he was at the time, had this big old bucket cowboy hat sitting on the stool that was way bigger than he was. As soon as she starts praying, he gets to the most, reverent and spiritual part. He falls over on top of the keyboard that was not muted, scared everyone out of their mind. And my dad gave him a look like, you're not going to live through the day.
And of course, we're so mature. We're back there like dying laughing.
That was so funny. I still remember that moment. I mean, we all didn't know if we wanted to laugh or like try to crawl under the stage. It was so funny. And that was, forgive me if I'm wrong, was that in the lobby area of the church? Is that where we were when that happened?
I think it was one of those, cafetorium.
Oh, that was at the school. Okay.
School stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
I may be thinking of another thing that happened, and that would be the night that Coby was talking to everyone about missing the family.
I knew it was coming. In my defense, I'm a very passionate.
Let's tell the world.
Yeah.
Let's tell the world.
I really don't even know what happened.
I talked to Skylar earlier today and told him that I was going to be talking with you guys today. And he said, make sure you ask Coby about the night he cried.
Thanks. I'll be sure. I need to give Skylar a phone call after this. Check on him. So as the story goes in my mind, I don't even know what happened. We were playing the same, brother Brad, sister Courtney. We've done this 100 times. And we're playing at a church. I don't even remember what the event was, but somehow or another started talking about Dylan and how, he's now in Nashville and he's doing all these great things, but he got his start here. And for whatever reason, I was just...
They stood him up on the crate and the band
next thing I know, I got that bubble in my throat and I don't know why. And, then they say, all right, now, probably it was A11. Yeah. So I get emotional. And then I guess it was Kevin playing drums. Like, oh, well, here's A11. He kicks it off. And I'm a blubbering mess. I just came in here before it happened. So we left not long, that had to be towards the end of the set. We broke down and no one said anything. It was the quietest teardown. Everyone put all their gear away. We got in the parking lot of the car. And then I don't know if it was you or Courtney. Somebody finally broke the silence and went, what happened?
We're like, are we going to talk about this? Are we going to talk about
mansplaining? I don't know what was going on.
It was so funny. We were all standing there trying to decide how to, those times when you're on stage where you feel like you're half musician and half being an actor or an actress and you have to not break character. That's the way I felt that night because I didn't really know how to react to what was going on because it was a legit emotional moment, but man, I wanted to crack up so much.
It was an emotional moment for Coby.
15 years later, I still haven't lived it down. Anytime I'm with you guys, hey, Coby, sing A11. Well, maybe not.
Yeah, it was.
A11 now holds a special place in all of our hearts.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's on a short list of some of the best moments I've ever had playing with anyone was when that happened. So I've always wanted to know about y'all singing harmony together, about your family singing harmony together. Did your parents work with y'all on that, or did it just kind of happen?
I think we all just enjoyed singing together, and then as we would do that, Dad would say, "Hey, sing here." I don't want to say that they taught us where the parts were, but they would correct us when we didn't have it right.
We just it's weird, even thinking about, these questions, there wasn't really much training. We just did it. And when it was wrong, it was corrected, but I don't know, especially me. And you know me, I can't read music. I don't know. Anytime I start, what key are you doing? I don't know. Just pick one and I'll let you know how it goes. I never know. I don't know. I guess it just comes second nature. We just jumped in. But yeah, what's crazy is my family, nobody had lessons. Like, except Dad taught the boys, guitar. But, Dylan plays piano. No, but we didn't have a piano teacher. There weren't lessons. We just
Right.
did it. So
The thing I always enjoyed about playing with y'all too is that we would go play and we would play some country stuff, but then we would play some pop music. It was always a show, right? And I'm sure a lot of that, I mean, all of those playing in those theaters, they played a wide spectrum of music, and everything that you guys would sing would connect with someone because it had such a good variety of material. It was so good.
It's kind of fun now. Courtney and I do a lot of stuff, just the two of us around town. And, we play some quiet restaurants. We've played the breweries, but we kind of have a game we call it going fishing, because you never know what the audience is going to want. So we just cast a big net. We may do Merle Haggard to Stevie Wonder to Michael Jackson to Garth Brooks, and then you look for that person just kind of singing along. So, Courtney said, "Ooh, I got one. I'm reeling one in." So now let's go down that direction. Let's go down the 70s. Let's go down the country. So that has benefited us a little bit.
No, it's great. I just remember when I first met y'all and started playing with you, it was one of those things where it's like, I want everyone that I play with to hear y'all. So y'all would come and sit in with us down in Alpharetta at the American Legion, or, whenever I started playing with Mark, I was like, I want you to hear them play. I want you to hear them sing. Everyone is like, oh my goodness, they are just like birds. Just sing like birds. It's so good.
And I truly appreciate that. I know Coby and I both do, because that brought us to friends that we still have to this day, Mark and Kev and everybody that we were introduced to. You just form that connection and find your circle, We were talking about how y'all had talked about Darren. I got to talk about Darren because my husband and I went to hear Mark Mundy. I think they were the internationals at that time, and Matilda's. And my husband knew him through landscaping. Like he worked at the, I don't know, landscape supply store or something like that. And he talked about his band, and he goes, "We got to go hear this band. We got to go hear this band. Let's go." And I was like, "Let's go." He goes, "I think you'll like them. They're country." And we went one night, and I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm going to sing with them one day." I was like, "I like them. They're up my alley." And then Darren would tell Mark about you, not knowing. So he had somebody in each ear saying, "My wife sings, my nephew sings," and we were finally all united.
We were all united. Yeah, it was really funny. The fact that you and I both had people that worked with Mark.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me at how long I've played music around that area and had never played with him. And it was just so funny how all of that worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about the internationals and saying, "You guys need to go hear this band." And it's the same. Look, it was the same thing. I mean, the first time I sat and played with Mark and Jody was in the back of Sawney Mountain Music, and we were playing some songs. And I think the first song we did was "Mama Tried," if I'm not mistaken.
That's the one that stole AJ's heart. He thinks that was better than the original. So.
Yeah, we started singing it together, and I'm just like, okay, well, I'm sold on it.
Yeah.
I think the first song I heard, I'm trying to remember, I think, was it 26 Cents, the first song I think that I heard y'all do?
Probably so, yeah. And that's one my mama sang.
Your mom is some kind of a good singer.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
It's just so much control and finesse, and yeah, just such a good singer. Yeah.
She's phenomenal. And won't, kind of like Dad, humble. Won't, you got to twist her arm to sing anything. But yeah, she's probably like talking about, as far as vocals, she's my biggest influence. And then there's things I've heard myself like recording where I I can hear my mom through my voice sometimes where I'm like, oh, that's the way my mom would do it. And she used to get so frustrated, jokingly frustrated at me because I would always do when Coby and I would play, or if we were at a gig that she didn't play, I'd always do her songs. And she'd be like, you did my song again. I'm like, but it's so good. Just inspired. Hey, that's my song. I'm like, I know, and I'm doing it.
Funny how a set of rusty rails built a wall that we can't break down. I know my baby's a stone's throw away, but it's a million miles from here to Williamstown. And if that train still stopped here at the station, we could hop on board and never look back until love can cross the line between his world and mine. I'm stuck here on the right side of the track until love can cross the line between his world and mine. I'm stuck here on the right side of the track.
And just thinking about those times we would sit around and play, I thought about this shy little kid that would play drums too, Justin. I couldn't.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So Justin Davis, he and I went to, well, I don't even think we went to school together. We were in a church youth group. So like high school, we had a little high school band. Super quiet guy, played drums, loved music. So after we had met you, Dad's like, all right, we got some acoustics, we got a bass. Now we need, we need a drummer. It's like, Justin plays. Well, great drummer. He was a part of that garage band, if you will. And anytime that we did a set, he played with us. Well, Justin ends up leaving. We graduate, we do a couple of years of college up in North Georgia. He ends up transferring to Belmont in Nashville. I believe he got a full guitar scholarship. Had a class with a girl named Sarah Zimmerman, a guitar class, and they were paired together for a project. The two of them just had an amazing musical chemistry and just blew up, became songwriters, very successful songwriters. And now they're in a group called Striking Matches. I think Capitol has them signed, but yeah. And he's all up front singing on a mic, he's a great guitar player, but back when we were hanging with him, you would have never known it. Come out of his shell.
Don't they sell out stadium like in Europe? Like they're a huge deal. They're a huge deal.
Well, I think so. They had some songs on the TV show Nashville, right? That they wrote.
Yes.
And then was their album produced by T-Bone Burnett, if I'm not mistaken?
It was.
Unbelievable. And look, in my time with him, he was the shyest young man I'd ever met.
Mm-hmm.
He was so quiet and just played such a solid drummer. And I would have never known he was a guitar player, singer like that. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Definitely came out of his shell. But, you talk about somebody that kind of learned that performance aspect, because he's still pretty quiet. We'd go see him at his show, before showtime, super quiet. Hey, Justin, how are you? I'm good. Just very laid back. And then second he's on stage, it's, who's this guy? Where'd he come from?
Wow. It's awesome. One of my best musical memories with my dad was when he came over to y'all's house and
I remember that.
played one night and
And
hung out.
one heck of a keyboard player.
Yeah. He was just blown away with y'all, and he was very nervous to play. He would have never admitted it, but he was very nervous to play sitting around, but he loved it and just could not get over the way y'all all sounded. That's on a list of memories with him I'll always remember was when we all sat around and he played. It was great.
I remember that. He fit right in.
Yeah, he did.
Right?
He fit right in. So y'all are gigging around the area. Where all are y'all playing now?
Well, we still like doing it for fun, and so we kind of had a conversation early on that we're going to keep doing it as long as we're having a good time. So we try to keep it to 1 or 2 a month. Different restaurants call us, different breweries will do some private events here and there. But the great thing about where we are is we can kind of play when we want and where we, get invited to. And a lot of what we get asked to play is kind of the early country genre stuff. But, a lot of these restaurants, it helps having a little bit of versatility to where if it's not a country crowd, we can, swing it this way or that. So, but we're around North Georgia area. Play, around Metro Atlanta a bit. So still doing our thing, just having a good time.
When we do the recording, dabble in the recording stuff too, whenever we get a call. Mark calls from time to time and Dylan. We like getting in the studio too whenever we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. You sang on one of the Across the Wide albums that we did.
What was the Across the Wide albums?
What was the other one that you, so I know you sang on Records and Bottles.
There was another one. You ask me now, I won't be able to tell you. But there were 2. I remember there were 2. What was the other song that y'all did? It wasn't just Records and Bottles. I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Well, I'll tell you, I saw y'all back in October, I think is when it was. And y'all had just come from a gig and got up and sang, and y'all have always sounded good, but I think that night y'all sounded the best that I've ever heard you.
Oh, stop it.
I'm serious. It was, and I've told a lot of people since then. You seemed so relaxed. It was just so effortless. And
I think that's my biggest demon. Like, me, you can vouch, like just getting over my nerves and confidence, wrestling with the confidence. When I let that go, things go a lot smoother.
Yeah, I get it. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
I fighting with the insecurity, the imposter syndrome. That's my big one. It's just like, just feeling like, what you can't hang with everybody you're playing with. That's the one I struggle with all the time. So I understand. And then you wind up playing and singing defensively, and it gets a little dangerous. So yeah, I get it.
Living room gigs were so magical too. Like, it didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
Everybody just did it for the love and the passion of music.
Yeah, that's really it. It was just, we were just all sitting around just doing whatever. Yeah. I have so many pictures that were taken over the years of us all sitting around playing together. I wish I had some of those very early ones, but I probably would look younger than Skylar looks now. So it's probably best that I don't have them.
I have a lot of those. Yeah.
You and AJ were dating when I first started playing
Just
with you.
Started dating. Yeah. He's still hanging around.
Well, he's all right. He's all right. I think about all the different things that we've done together. So yeah, we played at the church, played at First Baptist Alpharetta together. We played with y'all's family group. Coby and I did a lot of gigs with Steve Ward. And then y'all would come and sit in with us at Alpharetta. Then we did the stuff with Across the Wide, which Courtney, a lot of that stuff would be you'd come and sit in with us, or we would do. I think the recordings, we were never there at the same time, but
yeah,
it was.
We did.
It was
in music hall together,
and then we did Anderson Music Hall. We played in the band at Hiawassee.
In the Hiawassee, yep.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just in having moved And you just kind of, and as I'm getting older too, you just gain so much perspective on things. And I wish that I could go back and enjoy those moments again, knowing what I know now. Because you guys have just been a treasure to me since the day I met you. And
The day that we stalked you and made you come to our house.
I mean, Coby is you're like a brother to me. I mean, we've stood next to each other on stage many times, hundreds of times.
Well, it's like, playing with Courtney, you're comfortable playing with your sister. You and I, no matter what band we played or sat in, if Brad was there, your brother was there, and everything was fine, and golly, did we laugh. I don't think we've ever had a gig that we didn't just horse around. And I was telling Carla the other day a story. So when we were at the church, we had in-ears and you were on a talkback. If we ever had to make a last minute change with, some of those people, it was common. But I was supposed to sing a song. And at the time, those early 2000 Christian songs are straight up replicas of every 90s country song you could possibly imagine. So playing an intro and walking to the mic, 2 beats before my first line, and you get in the talk back and start singing a Garth Brooks, like looking back, and I blanked, so you back up. Those were the kind of jokes and gags that we would laugh. Oh my gosh. And just the goofiest licks that we would try to throw in just to get attention from everybody. So some of my greatest memories of music, period, have just been the dumb stuff that we did. And that just comes from being with your friends on stage. You said it earlier, when it's not about, am I out of my element? Are these guys more talented? When you're just with your buddies, there is nothing better. It is the most fun you're ever going to have on stage with your guys and your girls like that.
That's really it. Yeah, those times that we played at the church together, we had so much fun. There were some stressful times. I remember when you and I were the substitute worship leaders at the church for a while. That was a little bit stressful, I will say, for the record. But thank goodness we had each other through all of that, because I don't believe I know I wouldn't have made it without you being there, because it was tough. It was stressful. But yeah, man, there were times where I don't know if I couldn't physically laugh any harder than I would some of those times when we were on stage during rehearsal.
Writing charts and everything else.
Coby's thing is that he would write on his music while we were on stage. And one time he drew this horse and he did the X's for the eyes, so the horse was dead. And there was a guy next to it with a stick, like he was beating a dead horse. There's a picture of, we had a chart where we were talking about the arrangement of the chart, and it just kept getting more and more convoluted the more we talked about it. And Coby started just writing all of these notes in the margin about, do this, oh wait, don't do that, do this instead. And he just wrote all of these musical ideas up and down the margins of this chart, and then took a picture of it and sent it to all of us. And I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I was laughing so hard at just the silliness that is you, Coby Rosson. It was so funny.
Always a good time.
Always. I always remember too. I think I have a picture of this somewhere, of when you showed up for rehearsal on Cinco de Mayo, wearing a Cinco de Mayo T-shirt at the church.
I had one that we had gone for tacos and I think a margarita or something, and the guy said, "Have a free shirt," and it was like a 3X. So I'm like, why not? Didn't really think about it.
It's a miracle that y'all got invited back every week.
Yeah, it's if anyone from there is listening, I'm really sorry for y'all to hear about the silly boys that we were when we were not.
Hey, we love Jesus. We did our job. We just had a good time doing it.
No, that's it. I mean, golly. I mean, I've been too blessed for one lifetime to get to play with people like y'all. It's just unbelievable.
Like I said, you're stuck with
Yeah.
us. We've been through so many things, highs and lows and life events. And thank goodness music brought us together. Because it goes far surpast music by now, you know?
Yeah, I would echo that, just saying that, you know, when we moved to Georgia, you know, Mom and Dad, they were here with us for, I don't know, 10 years, Courtney, before they ended up going back to Nashville. But so many musical opportunities that Courtney and I have had have stemmed from you just being an advocate for us. People that have never seen us, knew us, heard of us. You spoke very kindly and gave Courtney and I so many opportunities that we would have never had. So, I mean, regardless of the joy we getting to play with you and all the good times we had, man, you will always hold a special place just in even what we get to do now. That came just from the years and years and years of, you know, grinding our teeth with you, learning new stuff with, you know, your raised elevation of musicianship, teaching me things. And so we owe you just a huge debt of gratitude as a musical mentor. But man, it's a lot of fun to call you brother and buddy, and I'm glad we just get to hang out now.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I did anything except tell everybody I knew, wait till y'all hear them sing. Wait till you hear them play. That's it.
I've always said you were my biggest cheerleader. And, you know, you helped bring me out of my shell too. And kind of like Coby said, when you're with somebody you trust and makes you comfortable and has your back, you're at ease and you can take more risks and feel more confident. That's the way I felt when we had gigs together. So yeah, we're very fortunate to have crossed paths, and you have been a great mentor to us.
Well, I love you guys, and you know, we'll make it down that way more, and we'll play some more songs together.
Living room's a calling, Brad. Living room's a calling.
That's it. That's it. I have a list a mile long that I want to hear y'all sing.
Always have our living room.
That's it. That's it. Well, guys, I love you. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today, and we'll just go ahead and plan on the part 2 episode, and we're gonna get some more of the Rossons on here too. So go ahead and y'all get to work on convincing them that they need to do this.
You got it.
Deal.
All right, guys. Thank you. I love you.
Love you
All
too,
right,
brother.
love you.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks for listening to the Bandwidth Tapes. I'm your host, Brad Williams. The show's theme is called Playcation and was written by Mark Mundy. Drop me a line at the email address, thebandwidchtapes@gmail.com. Make sure to subscribe to receive new episodes of the podcast. And while you're at it, please tell someone else about the show. Thanks for listening.